important ways that we can further the cause of Pan-Africanism and African redemption at home and abroad is by treating the people's needs as wholly. In my experience, boots on the ground, doing the work that I've been doing for almost the past 20 years, if you truly want to have people adopt a particular ideology or worldview, you have to address the issues that they're facing on a daily basis. Right? As a Pan-Africanist, I've seen numerous individuals engage Pan-Africanism from an academic standpoint. As many of the brothers know, I'm a professor of African American history. I'm currently working on my doctorate. And we find situations to where, okay, we are able to engage in intellectual masturbation about this Black radical tradition of audacious self-assertion in the face of white hegemony. And we could go on all day long, right, and be didactic in nature and, you know, give this beautiful speech. But at the end of the day, that doesn't put food on the table, clothes on people's back, or a roof over their head, right? The second issue is, even with cultural programming, Brother Chris Marshall, I think you're a powerful brother, and I'm agreeing with you, but I'm going to add a caveat. So just want to let you know I'm with you. But in my opinion, what I have found is the cultural programming helps people in terms of gaining a strong sense of self in a vehemently anti-African, anti-Black world, which is very important because we know every time we step outside the home, we turn on the radio, we turn on the TV, we read the print news, we find negative imagery and caricatures of African people. However, that doesn't help us gain a competitive advantage to compete in a global economy, right? And so I believe one of the biggest ways, the best ways that we can help Black people, of course, restore ourselves to our traditional greatness is by treating people's needs as holy, right? And I believe in order to do that, like Brother Obstacles Opportunities stated, we have to help people improve their quality of life. Whenever I meet brothers and sisters, and we know there are a number of individuals in our community who have what I would like to call some anti-African identities, right? They believe they're Hebrew Israelites, they're Moors, they're Native Americans, they're blue people in the movie Avatar, right? But everything but African, right? But what we tend to find is they all are unable to show you how having this particular identity benefits them tangibly. So I make the argument that as Pan-Africanists, that individuals who believe in the Black radical tradition of audacious self-assertion in face of white hegemony, we have to be able to create the infrastructure, the institutions, and the modalities to help our people gain a tangible benefit from practicing the principles that have been elucidated by the great scholars and leaders that came before us.
Yo, we got to have something tangible. I used to be in so many Pan-African groups. Oh man, yeah, back in 1996 and da-da-da-da, and the Christians and Afrocentric, then they got the dashiki on and they selling black soap. But I'm like, yo, we have to expand more than this. We have to have factories. You can't convince people to be Pan-Africanists and you in the basement like, oh man, hold on, man. The internet ain't working quite right now. And then they're like, yo, who is you? Like, what do you have to offer? And a lot of times we had nothing to offer. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I know Pan-Africans on the back channel. So when they were in Africa doing, deals with real estate, like land and acquiring it, they didn't know what they was doing. They was getting torn up. Contracts wasn't properly written. And it was like they were the smartest when it came to the history. They were intellects. Mm-hmm. But when it came to commerce, they didn't have that covered. Let's just say, I want to be diplomatic when I say it. They didn't have that basis covered, right? And so we have to, I think, in our culture, in our history, we have taken capital and been anti-capital because of what other people did with us with capital. And that's not, capital is a neutral tool, right? We don't have to use it the same way. We don't have to be so, like others were. And it made sense from their perspective, if you really look at it from their perspective. So when we look at it, we have to say, how do we give the people tangibles? And then we give them the tangibles, we give them the factory, and then we deliver them the Pan-Africanism. Because now they're listening like, oh my God, hold on. How did the brother like you, like, bro, I've been to Africa. When I opened up my first factory in Kenya, and I keep that on the low, so that's a nugget for you. But when we opened up our first factory in Kenya, I'm coming in, and the Kenyan governor from Baringo, he comes in the door and he's like, oh my God, wait, hold on. You black? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, what? We thought you was some white German man. And then I'm like, nah, and they're like, you're a Black American? This is crazy. And then of course, after he took me to the county, and we checked out the county and we looked at everything on the ground, and then we kind of just laid out our plans. So we imported the machines, and then we just started producing the plastic that we needed and whatever. Once the business was set up, they was like, let me ask you something. How'd you figure this out? I want to hear. And that's when people are interested at the highest, and you have them right there in your grist. But when I was just breezing through as a tourist, like, yeah, we need to get together as Pan-Africans. They're like, yeah, whatever. I'm about to go to this Indian man's restaurant because he hired. He's just talking bananas. Even though they agree, they're like, yeah, that's nice. All right, catch you later. I got to drive for Uber now. We need to have books. Exactly, right? I'm still solving. I'm still point A to point A. And then, yeah, you're going to have to provide me some tangible. And then I'm underneath your tutelage, just listening to you and then possibly changing my life.
I want to jump in though, because I know his brother made a great point, and Lumumba spoke to this as well about very often a lot of people who are Pan-Africanists are kind of stuck in a stage of glorifying the history, the Haitian Revolution, the empires, and that sort of thing. And Amos Wilson spoke about this very often, and the point that he was basically making is that if you're really serious about history, don't just study the great African empires, but study how we built those empires. So what happens a lot of the time is the economic tools that we need to build, the things that we need to build are right there in our history, but we're not really looking at history from that aspect. We're just looking at history like a feel-good exercise. Like we want to feel good that, our ancestors built pyramids and they built empires in West Africa and that sort of thing. But we need to really get into history to understand the economic systems that they put in place to build those things. And one of the points that Amos Wilson spoke to specifically that I've written about myself, that the Zulus, for example, we can't think of the Zulu Empire that Shaka Zulu built as just being the product of a great individual leader named Shaka. We also have to look at what reforms, what type of military innovations did he put in place to build the empire that he built, and also the economy. What kind of economic system did the Zulus have? How did that economic system, contribute to building the empire? Kemet's ancient Egypt, that's another great example of what kind of economic system sustained a civilization that was so advanced that they were building pyramids and that sort of thing. So I think it's important that, Pan-Africanists who get into history, we have to get into history and study it from a standpoint that is relevant and practical to our present day situations. It's not particularly practical to be going into impoverished communities telling people, oh, you should be proud because our ancestors built pyramids, but that's not going to feed you now. So how can you take that history and use that history to teach a lesson that could, give our people the tools that they need to build what it is that needs to be built now?
Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. Peace.